Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harping on Rugby preview show. And joining me to look ahead to Leinster's next assignment this season is someone making his eighth pod appearance. Welcome back to Mr. J Long.
Hey Jeff, how are you?
Not too bad. Good to have you. Well, before we start, there's just a couple of interesting talking points from during the week. Just to have a quick chat about. One of them was the appointment of Andrew Goodman to the Irish attack coach position. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy surprise. I think it's a pretty natural fit given I suppose the amount of Leinster representation there is in the Ireland squad. The Leinster attack functions well. It should be, all cards on the table. It should be a pretty natural transition, or step up. And he's kind of been on people's radar. Like he had a stint at the World Cup. So his stock was on the rise, and he kind of had whispers of him being offered something back from New Zealand or something over last season and last. But so it might be a tidy bit of business in the eye if you bring them in. Tops off a pretty positive set of Leinster news over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's a straightforward enough uh, decision. People come into the Irish system, and obviously, they would be looking to move up, and the position was there. Mike Cat moved on, and it's definitely a good move for him. It'd be interesting to see what happens at Leinster now. But yeah, so that's that. But there's another bit of news as well, which kind of relates a little more to our match in question there. I can't remember what it was. Can
you're
you
gonna
can
have to
you
remind
remind
me.
me?
You're gonna
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
remind
yeah.
me.
It's weird. Yeah. So I mean, a lot's happened. There's been a lot said back and forth, but where have you landed on the Snyman move?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose on the face of it, I understand why, from a Munster point of view, you kind of that anyone with them sort of point of view. I mean, I only have to scroll back through the now extinct Jason Long Facebook days when Carberry moved south for me to know that I wasn't much better. But no, look, I mean, you can't be helped but thrilled to have someone of kind of his quality coming in, right? I mean, not only for his kind of contributions on the pitch, but he's going to bring the likes of Joe McCarthy, Deeney, yeah, even the more tenured sort of players on to that sort of mindset, and it can't be a coincidence that Jack Nienaber is there, and we nailed Snyman pretty much close on. So maybe he was on kind of Leo's radar, but he jumped up the pecking order maybe with Jack there. Um, yeah, it's not without its risks, obviously. I'm sure he's not on a tenner a week. He's not a minimum wage player. So yeah, I hope it works out for all parties. Like by all means, he wanted to stay in Ireland. He's found a way to stay in Ireland, and look, hope it goes well for him, and I hope it goes well for us.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing I'd have with nothing about the player or the teams involved is just that I was never crazy about these decisions being announced halfway through the season. I mean, I
Yeah,
know things. I know a lot of times it's about a player coming up from the Southern Hemisphere, so they need to know in advance. But still, all I can think of to move like this is that we end up playing Munster in one of the knockouts at the second half of the season. He has to play. It just makes it all sorts of complications and all that kind of stuff later in the
yeah,
season.
it'd
But
be
still, look,
endless
yeah,
spin.
yeah, absolutely. But it's a good. I mean, he's a great player when he's fit. We've seen what he could do. Great impact off the bench. Good starting as well if he can, and like you say, a good influence around the dressing room as well and all the other players. So hopefully it will work out. But listen, we'll move ahead to more pressing matters. We'll look at our feature match of the week, which is of course Munster v Leinster in round 8 of the BKT United Rugby Championship. It's taking place at Thomond Park on Tuesday, December 26th, kicking off at 7:35 p.m. TV coverage is on RTE2, Premier Sports 1, and URC.tv. And as ever, you can find the full listings for the holiday weekend on harpinrugby.com. Just click the Rugby on TV tab. Leinster named their matchday squad at lunchtime on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right there in the screen. Or for pod listeners, it's in the program notes. Now, Jay has picked out three points he wants to look at, starting with Ross Maloney.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose of all there's lots to talk about in terms of the teams, right? But I guess being a kind of shameless Ross fanatic over the last couple of years, I had to kind of call it out. I mean, I was just thinking when I was reading it. I mean, if this was a team sheet, or the La Rochelle team sheet 2 or 3 years ago, Ross would have been starting those big games in Europe. And that seems to those days are kind of a sliding door moment. Maybe it's the that's how good Joe McCarthy is, and maybe they have this faith in Jenkins that maybe not all fans see. But Ross's star has seemed to have waned a small bit in terms of the big games, right? So he'll want to have a really really big impact here. And it kind of maybe speaks to the faith that they have in Joe and Jason Jenkins. But as I said, he'll want to put a serious stake down. Like his leadership is unquestionable. Like I still think I'd still back Ross to start any of the big games that we've had, we will have. If it's a final in Europe or the URC, and Ross is on the team sheet, I've no qualms with that whatsoever. I was delighted way back when there was whispers of him being called into the Ireland setup. I think he got brought into an extended squad or something like that, but and it never worked out for him, right? But kind of their loss is our gain, right? He's been the ultimate kind of squad man. He's been there and back again during kind of international windows for us as well. So yeah, just a big game for him. All the talking points have moved on to Snyman in the second row, Joe McCarthy in the second row. We're not getting enough out Jenkins. It's Jenkins's birthday 2 weeks ago. James Ryan's captain. All the refs hate James Ryan. James Ryan will never be allowed in a refs meeting again. But we still have, there's another lock in Leinster, Ross Maloney, that's been plugging away for a long time. I hope he absolutely flies. I have every confidence that he will, but I'm sure he's quietly determined to kind of put a big marker down on what's probably the biggest show in town other than a European game. In a way, Thomond Park, Munster test. Um, and it's going to be a boiling Thomond Park by the sounds of it. So, yeah, no better man.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's a really good shout because I mean, we've all this talk about the wisdom or lack thereof of co-captains. I mean, for me, Ross Maloney would have been in the conversation for the job on his own. It would have been a decent shout. I mean, his career in some ways has gone very similar to Leo Collins in that he does really well for Leinster, is a second row, and just not quite too many names ahead of him for the Ireland job. So he's a guy who's reliable, and he can be there for Leinster all the time. But like you say, Joe McCarthy's kind of come out of nowhere and shown what he can do. So he's in the mix as well. But this will be a good occasion for him. It'll definitely stand up to it. Your second point is about Kieran Frawley.
Yeah, whack-a-mole Frawley, as I'll now start calling him, because it doesn't matter how you knock him down, he's just going to pop up somewhere else the week after. Like, I mean, it's been the soup du jour, kind of trying to guess where he's going to start over the last couple of weeks. Is it going to be fullback, 12, 10? And I think this week, him sliding into 12, whereas I probably would have been a little annoyed had that been last week, for example. But I think with the kind of onset of Charlie very unfortunately going off, and us needing to rest. I mean, there wasn't an awful lot of hours in Henshaw's legs anyway. He was only kind of really coming back. I actually personally thought Ringer would get the week off. That was kind of what I had in my head at the start of the week, but I knew it was either Gary or Henshaw kind of taking the week off, and so I think it's just a numbers game really. And as much as probably Frawley doesn't like being the jack of all trades at the moment, like he's the perfect man to slide into 12 when Natai's injured. That's just a fact. And I'm fairly confident that he has his own aspirations. In fact, I think I remember him directly saying on an interview a couple of weeks ago, pre-match, saying, "I want to be a 10." It can't be much far clearer than that. But I mean, he's a quality 12, and we need a quality 12 this week. So he seems to be a squad man, and I suppose it's not a bad option really. I thought, Frawley took home the silver really from the La Rochelle game, but I thought Harry had a very nice outing for the first 35, 40 minutes, whenever it was he took the knock. So Harry starting at 10, he probably earned that versus La Rochelle, in my opinion. He didn't really put a foot wrong. Frawley came on obviously and kicked that monster, but Harry saw us through the first half as well. So yeah, so an informed Harry at 10, Frawley at 12, dual playmakers. It could be a really tasty thing to see. We've seen it before, but I don't think either of them have been, whenever it happened, they weren't hitting form at the same time. So yeah, it is what it is. But I really, really hope the fans seem to, just the general feeling and vibe from both fans, professional pundits. Like if you listen to kind of Birch or Parent Jackman, he wants to see Frawley at 10 consistently. Murray Kinsella, all these lads want to see Frawley go because they think he has the juice to give Jack Crowley a run for his money. So those lads know more than I do, and I want to see more in Frawley at 10 as well. So hopefully, towards the season goes on, that'll sort itself out. I'm sure someone will get their time and be unhappy with it. But yeah, let's see how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen over previous weeks, I mean, there's every possibility we'll see him at first receiver in this game because it's gone for a 6-2 bench, and it's Liam Turner is the back. So there's every possibility he might move over to 10. But like we've said before, it's not just about giving him game time on the day. If he's gonna if it's a position he's gonna play, he needs to know at the start of the week when they're training and they're going through their training drills and know he's going to be the starting 10 from Tuesday week in, week out, and be prepared and get the team working around him. I mean, that's very essential for that position, not just taking over on the day
He's
when
down the
someone
week.
else goes off early.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but anyway, well, like you said, Harry did well enough to turn to start again, and he should do well as well. Now your third point is about the back row in general.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose just thinking about that and kind of Nainoir's tenure, this will probably be the first time he's seen the likes of Deegan, Penny, and Conan start, and that's not really a very common back row anyway. But given the kind of lack of, I suppose, continuity week to week that we've had of Jacques, and the kind of varying sort of just the styles we've seen from the Leinster D over the last couple of weeks. La Rochelle was very, very heavy on the breakdown. The rush was very, very strong. We kind of fell off that versus Sale. I'm not sure how much of that was planned or us being a small bit sale shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of fell back into place in the second half. But it'd be really interesting to see how Deegan, Conan, and Penny implement what put rubber on the road for what Jack wants them to do, because they're a different build than what he's been working up to this point. I mean, I think every team in the world would lose something over the ball with Caelan Doris off the pitch. And that's the case here. Now the guys are well able to turn the ball over, but Jack's a more classic ball carrying eight, and Penny's just a grafter, and Ego's again a bit of more of a crash ball man whose skill set is actually kind of coming on this year. But yeah, it's really, really interesting to see, because it's going to be possibly another evolution again, of them retrofitting that kind of rush defense Jack system to what I suppose would be described as not our first choice back row. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine how motivated they'll be. I mean, we've seen over the past 3, 4, how many years now, Deegan and Penny, any combination thereof, if they're starting, if they're involved at all, at least one of them is going to get in the score sheet at some point. That's it's almost a given at this stage. And but like you say, someone like Nienaber and all the back rows he's worked with over the years and the style that they played, they'll be really keen to show him in particular what they can do. So as if they don't need to be fired enough going out to Thomond Park, there's all this extra incentive for them, to do well. It's going to be really, really interesting battle. Well, let's see who they're facing anyway, and we'll have a quick look there at the Munster side. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's probably as close to a bit of rotation, and as full bar as they can probably manage at the minute. They'll be delighted to have Dogbo back. I think he's been missed the last couple of weeks, and they've certainly lacked that top end power that allowed them to kind of compete for a consistent 80 minutes. And we think we've seen that they've fallen off. They start gassing. And a Dogbo, even though he's 12 years old out at the academy, 14 minutes, he's become pretty essential, and rightly so. He's been incredible. But at the same time, they've rested Tadhg, and much like Caelan Doris, if Tadhg isn't in your squad, you're losing something over the ball. He's an octopus, right? So, um, they have Gavin Coombs in the second row again to try add ballast there. That wouldn't be ideal. Obviously, it's not that's not his forte, right? He can do a job, but I don't think doing a job is good enough for a kind of a match like this, right? It's Leinster and Munster and Thomond Park. They'd obviously want, they would obviously want a Jean Klein, a Snyman, these lads back. They're big engine room basically, which they've been missing in fairness since pretty much the start of the season. But then what they're lacking in the pack, I think their backs look dangerous, right? They've had a kind of worryingly cohesive backline coming up against us here. Like 9, 10, like I'm nearly convinced if Casey stays on on the pitch last weekend, they probably win that game. Conor Murray definitely didn't have his best match, and Casey, I thought he was taken off a bit early. Even if Conor Murray played a stormer, he was playing fine in my mind. Like then you have Nankiville and Frisch. They're coming on leaps and bounds week on week. They look dangerous. Daly and Nash again had a very solid season. And I think myself included, a couple of weeks ago when we saw Zebo at 15, had a small scoff. Those days are gone, and he ripped us open in the first 5 minutes in the Aviva. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag there. I think their pack is probably it is like there's no denying it's missing the top end power. They've said it themselves. There's no Jean Klein, there's no Snyman, no Peter O'Mahony. So there's very few packs in the world that would be the same if they were missing players of that caliber. But on the outside, I think that's probably their best backline, maybe with Haley in instead of Zebo. But Zebo certainly kind of shut me up 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna create a soundbite here at the moment. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but even in the pack, there's some names there that are they're definitely making noises in Munster about them as they're up and coming. You got Hodnett, Ahern, Coombs, the Dogbo. They're names they've really gotten them excited and over their successful run last year, and new names coming into the side and really impressing. But they may not have given that performance against us yet, but they've got others that have, like Crowley and whatnot in the squad. It is an interesting selection. I think the most interesting matchup I think is probably Yager against Porter. All this talk about Snyman, there was this assumption that Yager was going to come to Leinster. There was more natural fit, so technically that was a bit of the same as well. He went the other way. You know what I mean? It's he's a rock boy and all this kind of stuff. And I know he was like about 7 or 8 years down south or whatever, but but when he's gone up against Porter, those scrums now are going to be interesting. Andrew Brace is going to have his work cut out now, sorting out those early few scrums now. If there's anything going on in that front row, he's going to hopefully he'll make a call. And you know what? Even if it's against us, you'd almost prefer if there's not these endless resets and endless, sitting on the fence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
set the tone.
So
Ahern at
see
6 has been an absolute revelation, hasn't he? It's just a joy to watch. Like and a lot of people even online are saying with the issues in the second row, why don't you just move Ahern to the second row, because that's the natural thing. But I mean, he's just been that good. I mean, you want to see that lethal giraffe out on the wing just destroy people. It's just a joy to watch. It's one of the things that I watched the game with my father. He's not massive into the game, massive into rugby, but that half the length try he scored last week versus Exeter, that was the kind of one thing that got the dad up and looking at it. So that's what you want to see. Fair play to him.
Absolutely. Okay, so now just a quick look at the officials. Like I said, Andrew Brace is going to be holding the whistle, and it's an all-Irish team there with him. We're recording a few days ahead because of Christmas and everything, but as of now, on Friday evening, the weather forecast for Limerick is mostly cloudy with a bit of rain, but that could all change in the meantime. Before we get into a prediction, we're recording just after the Ulster Connacht game finished. It was a 1-point win for the home side. What did you make of it?
Yeah, bit of a mixed bag for both sides. I think both of them would be kind of walking away both happy and sad. I think both of them had some really nice flashes. I mean, Ulster really, really strong the first half, but it was all Connacht in the second half. And they just seemed to just consistently kind of step on the garden rake as they were getting their throws over the top of the line out, knock-ons. But yeah, it was a great Interpro. The conditions were pretty rough, so it was messy in that way. Some lovely tries. I love the Bolton try. The slow slide, the 45-meter slide over the line at the end was a nice way to finish. But yeah, Ulster would be delighted, right? Because they won against a questionable Racing. I think Racing have incredible players. They're maybe not an incredible team at the moment, but that was a very decent Connacht team. It was a gritty win at home. It definitely kind of puts them back, back to winning ways. But bit of a spring in their step again, moving into the rest of the season. So,
yeah, I couldn't help feeling that it was there for Connacht. Like there's a couple of overthrown lineouts and stuff. It was just you couldn't see where they would have gotten the try, but or the Stephen the scores to get over the line, but you knew it was there somewhere, and they just couldn't find it. But I mean, that was the fifth Interpro of the season, and they've all been decided by 7 points or less. So that's just shows how close the Interpros have been, like, you know. But anyway, you know,
I'd
it
be
was
happy to break that trend now on the 26th.
very, very, very happy once it's the right way.
Yeah.
Okay, and so here we go. So what is your prediction? Then we move on to putting your head on the block for Stevens Day or Stevens night. What do you reckon?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, looking at the sides, I think I think we pretty much have them physicality wise, and say that the starting 15 and the 23. I think our bench is probably going to really tell. The likes of Jenkins coming on, Will Connors, all these guys, they're going to add so much coming on. But at the same time, it'll be a noisy Thomond Park. They'll have this in their calendar now after a pretty disappointing open European season, to get the Munster faithful back on side, to get the lads kind of feeling a bit of groove again. But I think it's Leinster by 7 for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I think it's all about the attitude on the night. Now, like you say, the home side, whatever their selection, they're going to be pumped up for it. They're going to be ready. They're going to want to go out and put a performance in front of the home crowd. So it's all how we square up to it. But if we play the way we know we can, we put in. I mean, that just take that Rochelle performance as a template. If we can take that, play that kind of way, we definitely can do it. Okay, listen, man, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Jay for joining us. Have a great Christmas, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy Christmas, everyone.
No problem. And many thanks to you all for tuning into our latest preview show. Have an awesome Christmas and enjoy the match wherever you are. Be sure to follow us on all the usual social media channels, including Blue Sky. And we will, of course, have a wrap pod for you recording on Wednesday evening. So hopefully you'll help us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Happy Christmas. Slán.